In part 1 of the video, we actually showed the rule which basically says, well, for this log source ID, we don't want to evaluate this on every event that happens. And we'll see that this log source ID is the one that is processing the logs that come from the Trend Micro technology. And the AQL extension returns yes to the question, does this IP contains this particular CVE ID, then this offense fires. And you remember that in the previous logs we saw these events, and notice that there is the ID 314, as you can see, and that's the log source of the Trend Micro. How do we get these logs into the system? So all we have to do is actually point the logs into the QRadar's IP address, and they were auto-discovered, as we see here, auto-discover equal true. There was one more thing to do, which is when the logs are processed and auto-discovered by QRadar, the log source. So when we open the actual event, we'll see here that there is a custom property that we added in here, the CVE ID, that actually extracts nicely the CVE we need. And we will need that custom property when we call the AQL extension to query the destination IP and the actual CVE number. So here's the destination IP that we'll use, part of the question, and here is the other parameter. We could have done this as we used to do in the past by going into map event, but now we have the TSM Editor. So all we have to do is select the event and click here on action for TSM Editor, and bang, we are there. And this is the CVE ID property that we added, and this is the regular expression to capture the 8 digits of the CVE, as you see here. The capture group is 1, and then in here we can select things like, well, let's make this category exploit and make it actually let's leave it here in any, so it will fire with it will detect on all those events, and that's all we need to do. We save it here and we have that custom property added. Easy. How did we add that AQL extension? Well, we went here into the admin console to extension management and actually install a zip file, which is actually this one. This triangle means that this is not a certified sign extension created by IBM, because we actually did this ourselves. And as we see here is a custom function. And that zip file, when expanded, actually what we did is that we got this XML and we compress it to have it imported on the extension management. But this is the content of that actual extension in there. One point that is important is that for this to work, because this is actually calling the APIs to query the asset database, you need to pass a token, and this token needs to be generated in your system, and you need to put it in here and then zip your own version of this extension so it will work with your system. And here we see that Mutaz is actually asking for the CVE ID and the asset IP, and is invoking that as a post. And based on the result of that query, he will send a yes or no. Again, if the answer is yes, the offense fires. Is not, the offense is ignored. A note that I would like to mention is that the searches on the asset database have been improved in version 7.7.2.8 35 times. So this should make this rule less expensive in terms of resources when evaluated.